Hello.
Hi,
Yeah,
thank you so much.
How are you?
There's people online.
Okay, so hello everybody. I'm gonna start today's event with Adela. So because Mary is in a meeting, so I'm gonna help her to host this event. So first of all, please let me introduce our guest speaker today, Adela, and she's gonna talk about the market industry in the field of education. Please feel free to send all your question in the chat so that we can discuss and consult Adela. So, and I will give it to Adela.
Okay, hi everybody. Can you all hear me? Everybody, we're good? Okay, awesome. Okay, it's
I think we lost you.
Yeah, I
Because
can't.
both
Yeah, I
of you.
can't hear.
okay. Now can you hear me?
Oh no.
Yeah, then maybe just mute your laptop and we'll, or not mute, turn the volume down.
Oh, it now. Oh no.
Now is it okay? Oh. The volume, like not your, try now? Good, okay. All right, now can everyone hear me? Clearly. Excellent. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen. Just put it in slideshow mode. Okay, so everyone can hear me and everyone can see my screen. Excellent. Thank you for the feedback. Okay, so I just want to say I'm really excited to be back today. Because if you, I know most people, like I said, know me and I know you, but there's a couple people I think that I'm just meeting for the first time. And so like ETAP Docs kind of started with a pipe dream and a cup of coffee. And it's really cool to be back. And this current e-board has really taken ETAP Docs from where we were last year, and even just in a few months over the summer since I have graduated has elevated it. And I see the marketing and all the podcast, the Instagram stories. I mean, everything that you guys are doing is just awesome. So I'm really, really excited and proud of what ETAP Docs has done so far. So anyway, on to the presentation. So we're going to be talking today about the industry market. So a lot of us come from academia only, or we've done maybe K through 12 before, or some other kind of job, and we're getting a PhD in education. And at least I was under the impression that the only job opportunities that I had were going to be in higher ed. And I was basically going to be a professor, which I wanted at first. But over time, that sort of changed for me. And I'll talk a little bit about that in my presentation. And so I started looking in the industry and I ended up getting a job at Duolingo, which is the world's leading language learning platform. And I'll talk a little bit more about that process as well. But this is kind of my story, and I'll give you a little bit of an overview of Duolingo as well. So yeah, I will tell you more about our company, my experience applying and interviewing, and then I have some questions that were pre-submitted by you all and that Mary gave to me, and then we have some open question time as well. Okay, so about me, I am, like I said, I just graduated and got a job at Duolingo. I'm a curriculum designer there. So what that basically means is that I am running a team of contractors who design exercise types for a given language. Now at Duolingo, we have a lot of like target and then UI or user interface languages. So I was previously running the English for Russian speakers course, and now I'm going to be taking over the English for Chinese speakers course. And I'm really excited about that because my background is in both English and Chinese. So that's really exciting. And it's also the biggest course in the China market. So I'm really pumped about that. Okay, but so who is Duolingo? So some of you might know Duolingo already, especially if you're familiar with language learning, but we actually have quite a few different products that are more than just the app that now extend into literacy and math, and a high stakes English test that is basically going to become a competitor for TOEFL and IELTS. So starting with our founders, we have over here Luis Van Ahn, our CEO, and Severin Hacker, our CTO. And the way that they founded the company is actually really interesting. So Luis is from Guatemala, and he saw when he was growing up how learning English could just double your income, like just automatically knowing English gave people these opportunities. And Severin Hacker, he's from Switzerland, so he's Swiss German, and he also, you know, saw that, and they both learned English and ended up coming to the US for school. And they met at Carnegie Mellon University, where Severin was actually Luis's PhD student. And Severin had this idea to make an app, and the rest is history. So it kind of started with his PhD project. So that's some inspiration and goals for all of us. And so basically our mission is to create the best language education in the world and make it universally available. And that's going back to what Luis has kind of, the reason they started the company is because of seeing that having a bilingual, or at least like learning English in addition to however many languages you already know, can increase your earning potential by at least double. And back in Guatemala, and really, I mean, this is common knowledge. I think most of us in here, I think me and Tom are the only native English speakers. So clearly you all are here and you've all learned English and are actively working in your second, third, however many language. So, so everyone here can kind of relate to that. Okay, so Duolingo, we actually have 500 million plus downloads. And like I said, we are the leading language learning platform. We recently were rated the best education app by the App Store. And we do offer over 100 different courses. And that, like I said, there's a lot that go into English. Like we have English for Spanish speakers, Portuguese speakers, Chinese speakers, Japanese speakers, Korean speakers, but then we also have all those languages in reverse. And we just launched a Cantonese for Mandarin course. We also have and some indigenous languages like Hawaiian, Navajo, and Maori. And we also have some conlangs like Klingon and High Valyrian. So if you're a fan of Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon, we have those languages. You can learn High Valyrian and watch Game of Thrones and know how to talk to dragons. So those are not, I would say, our priority courses. And actually the people that work on those are the people that created the conlangs, because we like to invest our time into the language courses that are the most useful. And right now those are our French for English speakers, Spanish for English speakers, and then English for Spanish or Portuguese speakers. So those are our top 4 languages. And then we have about 20 other courses, like the one that I work on, that are kind of a priority growth market, where we see in the future this is going to continue to grow, and we want to invest in those languages as well. So if you haven't used Duolingo, definitely recommend it because it's super fun. It's a game. And I guess to sum up, we have more learners learning on Duolingo than in all US high school language classrooms. So that's a pretty big deal. And that will transition us into business. So there are about just under 2 billion people in the world learning a foreign language. Like I said, all of us in this room, I think, are language learners. And the online language learning market is very large and it is growing. And this is something that I started to notice. So while I'm talking a little bit about just Duolingo and the business, I've known about Duolingo since it started in 2012, and I loved it. I think that it is not, you know, teachers shouldn't be eliminated completely. Like there's certain things that the human perspective can give. But I also think that making language so accessible to people, like anyone with the internet can learn a language for free. None of our stuff is behind a paywall. If you subscribe and pay, you just get more of the gamification features. And I think that that's something that I started to see, especially through COVID, how inaccessible a lot of the current means of education really are or can be. And there's a huge issue, at least in the school that I was teaching in during the pandemic, where a lot of the language teachers were very reluctant to use technology. Granted, I will say that, of course, not everyone has access to technology, but that is something that we do kind of combat with certain things. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later on when I talk about our products. Yeah, so like I mentioned, so this is the level of global language learners. And then we have 50 million people that are using our app monthly. We average right now about 15 million daily active users. So that's people that are coming back like over the past 7 days to learn a language every day. So about 15 million people are using our app on a daily basis. And then the subscribers, that's actually a really small portion. And those are the people, like I said, who actually pay for the app. So we, that's where we get our monetization from, and that allows us to do cool things with the app. But most people don't pay for our app. And that just proves that we're hopefully making an impact in places where people cannot pay. And we do see that like the majority of our monetization comes from countries like the US, the UK, different countries that are, where the GDP is higher. And we're totally fine with that and totally fine with the fact that countries that can't afford to, or people where the countries are generally like underdeveloped or, just maybe barely have access to education and can get their hands on some technology. We love that they can use our app for free because that's our goal. So a little bit about the products. I've talked a lot about Duolingo, and that's our main product that we started out with originally. We also have Duolingo ABC, and that is our literacy app. So this actually will teach you how to read, and it's really fun, just like our original product. Then we have the Duolingo English test, and this is a high stakes test, but the really cool part about it is that it can be taken from anywhere. So unlike TOEFL or IELTS, which it was nearly impossible to take again during the pandemic, you can take it from your laptop at home, and we proctor it virtually. And the best part is it only costs $50, and we do offer waivers for people who can't afford it. So it's much more affordable and accessible than TOEFL and IELTS. And we're currently working on getting more and more universities to accept it, but many do, like Carnegie Mellon. I believe most of the Ivy League schools now accept it. Stanford, UAlbany accepts it, thanks to some friends that we might know, and who have worked on that. We also have Duolingo podcasts, and these again are free things you can listen to like on Spotify. Our Spanish ones are really enjoyable. Oops. And there is a story, a true story about our CEO on there if you want to listen to something from his life. And finally, our most recent product is the Duolingo Math app. And this is designed for learners up to 3rd grade who are learning things like fractions and how to measure things. And I'm not sure how far we'll end up going with that, like if it'll eventually go to teach us calculus or something. But for now, it's a great app for kids. And my point in showing all of this is that I come from a language teaching background, and that's my focus. But we have a lot of different products where if you're more interested in testing or literacy or math or creative writing, because we do need that in Duolingo and also in the podcasts, there's a lot of different opportunity here for you if you're thinking, well, I don't really do anything with language, but I do something with like, this subject. And right now, I don't believe that there's anything in the works as far as like science or other subjects, but you never know. I mean, we just launched our math beta, so anything can happen with us. We're always looking to expand. I know a couple reasons why I really like working at Duolingo is that it is such a people first company. So what that means is that they really consider you as a person, and we have a lot of really good benefits that make working there really attractive. Some stats about it is that we do have about, I think it's actually a little over 600 employees now. About half are women identifying, which is really cool. We have 30 languages spoken, and people from over 25 countries. And we have 5 different offices. We have our headquarters in Pittsburgh, which is where I'm based out of and where most people work. And then we have an office in Seattle and New York City and Beijing and Berlin. And we just did our first like business acquisition, and we acquired an animation studio that's based in Detroit, but no other duos are working there right now. It's just their existing studio. But it's technically ours now. So I guess they should update this PPT. All right. So how did I end up here? So you're all saying, well, this is all good and well that you have this job, but how did you get there? So I'll tell you. The process for applying to Duolingo specifically was quite long and difficult and took a lot of preparation. So I'll talk about the process first, and then on the next slide, I'll talk about preparation. So in about mid-March, I sent in my CV, and I actually didn't send in a cover letter. I just was so frustrated because I had applied to so many jobs that I just sent in my resume on Glassdoor. And about a week and a half later, I got an email from a recruiter asking if I wanted to have a 15-minute call with her. After I got a rejection email that was like a no name, just like, sorry, we're not hiring you. And I was convinced that I wasn't going to get any job there, but I said, oh, I'd absolutely love to have a call. So I had the call with her, asked some questions about the company, and she asked me some questions to kind of like feel out if I would want to work there. And then I had a technical take-home task, which is something that's like similar to what I do on a daily basis, or kind of more what my contractors do, because they're the ones that actually create all of the content that you see in the app, and then we work together to finalize that content. So then after that, I did an interview with the director of my department, and then we went over the take-home task that I had, and I was also presented with an on-the-spot task. So she gave me some exercises in a language that I had never worked with before, that I actually didn't even know as a language, and that she's fluent in. And she asked me some questions, and I guessed that I did okay, because they asked me to come back for round 3, which was a full day of interviews. Now, this is sometimes done at our headquarters, but I did it remotely since it was still kind of at the like end stages of the pandemic. And so I interviewed with the VP of Learning and an area lead from my particular area, 2 different engineers who asked me to do things like, teach them something that had nothing to do with language. And the other one was I had to pretend that I was a robot and I had to make breakfast. And so like things like that are kind of the things that technical tasks for Duolingo. And all this stuff is stuff that you can find on Glassdoor, which I will I'll have a link to and stuff later. I had interviewed with my project manager to see how it would be working with contractors. And then I also met several potential future coworkers for kind of like a casual conversation to just ask them about what they, their experience was like working at Duolingo. Yeah, like I said, I had some more on the spot tasks. And then the last round was basically a reference check. Reference check. And so I had 1 former employer and 2 of my committee members write me, or not write me a reference, but just call or respond to an email. And then I had a final conversation about compensation and the official offer. And this part was a little bit challenging because there's not a lot of information in the market out there about what like my position makes, because it's kind of unique, right? Like you can look up what a software engineer makes. So I kind of just did a general, like, hey, anyone that works in tech, what do you make? And I was really nervous because on Glassdoor, it says like $35,000 to $75,000. And I thought that was like kind of low because I was like, well, I went to school for 10 years. I'd really like to make some good money. And when I talked to the recruiter, she said, well, just give me like your unicorn number. And so I was asked for 6 figures, and they gave me like just over 6 figures plus a hiring bonus, plus a relocation bonus based on how far I was moving from. And then also there's a ton of benefits. Like I get 20 days of PTO. We have 2 weeks for Christmas break. There's a vacation every year to Cancun in February. And we now have unlimited sick time, which is really nice. if you buy your first home in Pittsburgh, we're about to do open enrollment, so some of these things might change, but they give you $10,000 towards a down payment for your house. Because they really want to invest in Pittsburgh. And yeah, just I get free lunch every day. Like there's a buffet and there's sometimes like scallops and lobster, which I don't even really eat, but it's nuts. Like coming from academia to tech is mind-boggling. So yeah, it was a big culture shock. Okay, so preparation. What did this look like? Also, oh, it's till 12:30, isn't it? Okay, good. I was thinking I had 5 minutes left and the time went really fast. So I read a lot of Glassdoor experiences. And so this is actually a link and I'll have, I can share this deck to Mary or someone here and I can have her share it out. But I highly recommend reading these for any job that you want, because on Glassdoor, what happens is after you get the job or after you interview, even if you don't get the job, they usually give you, the recruiter will give you a link to provide feedback on the process. And this is where I learned that, oh my goodness, there's technical tasks that I have to prepare for. And so I started using the app. So if you're going to work in industry, the biggest thing that I would say is that you need to know the product that the company is selling, or in our case, it's not a physical product, but I had used Duolingo before, but I downloaded it again. I tried a lot of the different courses on there to get a feel for it. And you need what they call product knowledge, which was like a new term. There's a lot of new terms that I didn't know about, as well as your specialization. So I came in knowing a lot about linguistics and education and Chinese and English, but I didn't know how to use any of the tools, that they use at Duolingo to write any of the exercises. So there's a lot of stuff that you have to learn, and there's a lot of ins and outs that you don't know, even if you do use the product. But I think that using the product allowed me to ask really thoughtful questions, which also researching the product did. So I read just about every news article I could find on Duolingo. I watched all their TikToks. I follow them on social. I watched and read interviews with the CEO, and these all have really helped me. Like, for example, in 2021, Duolingo became a publicly traded company. And so that was something that I asked, and I said, how did that change? Because for 9 years, they had been a privately funded company. And that was something that like the CEO kept mentioning in the interviews, was that it was a big change. Now I have no business background, so I really didn't know what that meant. I'm not really good with like stocks and finances or anything like that. Like I've had my head in the books for my whole life, right? And so I learned a lot of that stuff so I could ask those questions. Because another thing, which I think I mentioned in another slide, is that's like about just how life is different, is that you're frequently talking to people that don't have your background, and you're also talking to people that have a specialization in something you don't know anything about in industry, because there's all different departments, where like here, there's different departments, so the topic might be different, but as far as like researching and writing and taking classes and creating syllabi, that's all generally the same. So you kind of in academia have this sense of, you know what to expect. And at least for me, going from like teaching a class to being a professor is not as huge of a leap as this was. So I have some pre-asked questions that I've answered, but feel free to like jot down any questions, or if you want a clarification on it, because I did leave room at the end of these questions for more questions, because I wasn't sure if the same people asked them or not. So the first one I got was why industry, which I talked about a little bit, but I never really wanted to work with kids. Like a lot of people, they want to work in like K through 12. I don't. I taught kids abroad in China, and it was super fun and they were really cute, but it just isn't what I want to do forever. And I taught high school in the US, and that was fun too, but K through 12 is just not for me. It's very stressful. It's difficult. It's long hours outside of work. Sometimes you can't even go to the bathroom in between classes, and there's minimal benefits. It's like in the US, at least, it's very difficult to be a teacher, and that's where I would be teaching. And I find that higher ed in the US is increasingly this way. you know, a lot of jobs that I was looking for when I was in my search, I saw they pay less than $50,000. The application process is ridiculous. I mean, I had to submit like maybe 8 different things. You need like 3 letters of recommendation, a teaching statement of philosophy, your publications, your CV, you know, cover letter, like everything. And you might not even get an interview. And it's just, it's so much work for such like little reward. And I really felt like, you know, we've gone to school for so long. We deserve to be appreciated and compensated fairly. And that was something that I didn't think I could find in a teaching position, and especially for languages. I don't know if this is the case for everyone else's specialty, but a lot of times I only could find lecture or adjunct positions. So I wasn't even going to be getting benefits. I was just going to be getting a salary that I thought wasn't fair. I also think that ed tech is just the future, to be honest. Like I said, I don't think that teachers are going to be eliminated. You know, I don't think that, I mean, maybe 100 years from now, robots will take over everything, but for now, I think we still need people. But I do think that people and technology work together, and that will make the best, you know, outcome for learning. And I think that specifically at Duolingo, which is what I was really looking at, and other companies like Duolingo, like language learning apps, they do this really well there. And so I wanted to be a part of that. I kind of talked about compensation already. So most jobs in my department, like I said, start about 100K with lots of growth potential. So I started at a level 2 because I came in with a PhD. So if you come in with like a master's or something, you'll probably start at level 1. And I think that it goes up to level like 7. So, and there's a couple different tracks you can do, and that would be a whole other presentation, but suffice it to say, there's plenty of room to grow. And I did mention some benefits. We also have a nice flexible schedule. Like today, I can come and do this and, you know, see some friends, and like it's still work. So that's really nice. And I can work later and do my work that I need to catch up on this afternoon. Also the PD budget, like we can go to 2 conferences a year, which is really nice. And we also have a learning budget, so we can get books. Like if I wanted to get some more books for my Chinese course or for Russian, I can get that, or like a subscription to be part of a, you know, like your membership dues to whatever you want to be, like AMPRA or AERA. As long as it's like related to what you're doing. And then we do have clubs. So I did like volleyball club, and we have games club. And, you know, a lot of these people are coming, they're software engineers and they're like 21 and they're right out of college. So I felt a little bit old, but it's really fun. And it's like, and you don't have to participate, but there's a lot of cool stuff to do. And even if you're not in a club, we have a lot of social events that, you know, really create the sense of community. And that's something that I really liked here, that, you know, I tried really hard to create with ETAP docs. So, and I think that it's going well. I think that like I said, the e-board now is doing a really good job of that. So, it had everything that I wanted. Okay. So how did you feel about job prospects when you graduated? Well, I got the offer from Duolingo the week I graduated, so I felt good. But that winter, just a couple months before, I was getting feedback on my, you know, my paper, and it's very, very disheartening at times to get the feedback. And I really, truly considered quitting the PhD several times. And I told that to people in my life. But when I really sat down and I thought about it, and Roberto's like, I was teaching a class with you, you know, you were going to quit. But yeah, I mean, it's very hard. And if you've been here through the pandemic, especially, it's challenging to be alone when you get to those end stages. It's really tough. But if it's something you really want, don't give up. Like, don't do something you don't want to do. But if you really want a PhD, and if it's really going to get you to where you need to go or you want to go, then don't give up. Like, it is going to be hard, but that was kind of another point of ETAP docs. So, so very mixed, I guess, is my answer to that question. Okay, when did you start to look for jobs and apply? So I always kind of kept my eye out the entire time that I was in school. So I would always check things like Linguist List, the Glassdoor, Indeed. I looked up colleges and companies I wanted to work for, and I would always also sometimes like look up like, hey, I think I want to live and work in New York City. What companies can I work for in New York City? I also started to think about once I really thought about like industry, I started to look for remote positions so that I could travel and just kind of live wherever. And that was also really influenced by the pandemic. And I started considering like starting my own company and using social media to teach, because a lot of people do that and they make a killing. I also considered being an educational consultant or like a dialect coach, because that was a job I had done before. And so, yeah, I really at this point was thinking, I'm not going to go into academia at all, and I'm going to do one of these options. So how did you find out about Duolingo and the position? So like I said, I had known about Duolingo since it started in 2012, and I actually have applied twice before and was rejected. And even this time around, like I said, I applied to two positions and I was instantly rejected from one. It was for a learning scientist position, which I'm very happy because I met the person who got that job and she's fantastic. And we co-wrote a blog post for a Duolingo blog. But mostly I just searched on the internet. You know, I looked up like jobs in ed tech, jobs with language learning. I should have saved my search history, I guess. But yeah, I just would look up everything. I mean, almost every night I would look up after I was done writing for the night, because I wrote a lot in the evening for my dissertation. I would just search and search, and I just really was frustrated, and I thought, wow, I'm never going to find anything. So again, don't give up. That's my main message, I think, is just that, you know, there is a light at the end of the tunnel eventually, but it's a long road, or it can be a long road. Okay, are there any skills needed to blend in? And I'm just trying to move this stuff around here. Industry-based positions that differ from academia. Yes, definitely. So I talked about product knowledge, and product sense is this other thing that they say that all of the education people, they're like, oh, you don't know, you don't have any product sense. So I try to hone that skill, and I still don't really know exactly what it is, but it's like I think it has to do with the user experience. And so I just try to use the product as much as possible. So if there's a product that you really like an app or something, and it's related to education, or it's something that you do, look into working for them, because like you don't know what the possibilities are. I thought that at Duolingo, it was all engineers, and there are many engineers because it's an app, but there's a lot of jobs for people like us. So yeah, the other thing, like I said, you regularly work with people that have like no idea what you're talking about if you were going to go deeply into something like in your dissertation. So you have to really learn how to explain things succinctly and clearly, and not full of jargon that has to do with like your dissertation. So I really recommend participating in 3MT, which is the 3-minute thesis. If you don't know what that is, I don't have time to go into it now, but it's exactly what it sounds like. You tell your thesis in 3 minutes. And it's a competition that's hosted at the university in the second semester every year. And you can Google it and it'll teach you how to prepare. So Duolingo is a bit unique, but everyone there is like so nice. I've never met, I don't know how they do this, but they just hire really, really intelligent, kind, friendly, welcoming people. And it's just like your first week, everyone wants to take you to lunch. Everybody is so nice. And you know, you have a mentor just like here. And it's like, it really is a lot like ETAP Docs. Like I feel at home there. And we all share ideas and we regularly ask for help. So most questions are asked in public as opposed to like in a private email. And that was hard for me at first, because in academia, that's not always the case, right? Or sometimes I would feel like nervous raising my hand in class, or you know, not knowing. I feel like there's this pressure, at least for me, I felt like there was a pressure to know everything. And if I didn't know how to do what the person next to me knew how to do, I felt less than, you know, and there really isn't a lot of that at Duolingo. It's very much like, I don't know how to do this. Can you help? Who knows how to do this? Can you help me? And then you thank the person for helping you. And that like shift helped me a lot, which again, I think that's something that we do here, but it's not as common for academia in general. Okay, so now time for other questions. And I see some in the chat.
We have one from Tom. What's the difference between the learning science position and your position? How do the roles differ?
Yeah, Tom, I thought you might be interested in that one. Yeah, so I am happy to find like a specific detailed role. Hi, Ray. Description, if you're interested, but basically the learning scientists focus more on assessing how well our product is working and teaching and understanding, like it's a more cognitive focus and a more, I'd say like quantitative focus, but not always, because we do have qualitative research we do as well. But like a user experience researcher is another one that's like a close role to that. Whereas like in a curriculum design position, I'm actually like the stuff you see when you open up the app and use it, that's what we're creating. So they don't create any of the content on that side. They're kind of seeing, okay, because once we create the content, it kind of goes out into like experiments. So they're in charge of the experiments, and then they let us know how our content is doing in the app with real people. And then based on that, we change anything that needs to be changed.
Right. Yeah, I think I get.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I get it. Yeah, like you're looking at the content and the sequence and the combination of the content, how it comes together, the design. The learning scientist is looking at the learning that is taking place, trying to understand if and how the learning is taking place.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Great. Thanks.
Yeah.
And then I've got another question actually. I'm interested to hear more about the tasks in the interviews. What kind of tasks? It sounds very interesting. Like the.
Yeah. I think I can't say specifically because I vaguely
All right.
a non-disclosure agreement.
Right. Yeah.
but-
Like, could you? Yeah, but maybe
But
you
I
could say
think-
like, what kinds
Yeah.
of things do they test without describing the test?
Yeah, sure. So if you've used, okay, who here has used Duolingo? Okay, so some people. Okay, so all right, you know, I'm just gonna do a little demo here. So I have Duolingo on my phone because I use it every day. Okay, this is the Russian course. So yeah. Oh, that's Korean, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I'm learning Korean too. Yeah. Okay, so basically like this is, I'll show you on my phone. Oh, it's blurry.
Yeah, I think when you move a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Next to my face. Okay, well, anyway, I don't actually think, I think Spanish would be a better way to show it, but basically, yeah, I want to go through a whole exercise, but basically you can see like, this is kind of like you're listening to something and you're trying to pick which word it is, right? So that's like one exercise type. That would be, I guess this is just a regular, like, what we would call.
So they're like literally testing your ability to learn a language.
Yes, so we would see like, okay, so if I was gonna work on this, if they gave, that wouldn't be a good example. Okay, so I guess it's more like, so if you're teaching someone from scratch, right? Like, and they know no words in the language that you're trying to teach, one of the tasks was something like creating a lesson from scratch, where like this person knows hello, I, you, and am, and happy or something. And like, that's all you have, create a lesson. Another one was like revising things that I don't think they're like actual things in the app at the time, but they're just revising like hypothetical situations, like or you know, maybe something like explain like the stress rule in Spanish, you know, like why, a question that actually 3 people have asked me this week alone is, why is there sometimes an accent on L and not on L? And what about two? It does the same thing. As Isabel's laughing because, yeah. And so I'm like, well, you know, it's pretty simple in Spanish, a lot more straightforward than English. So, yeah. So things like that. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, just
But-
I'm conscious. I don't want to talk. I don't want you to talk about it too much because I don't want you to get in trouble.
Yeah,
But I think like, yeah, just like I was wondering, like, are they testing your logic? Are they testing your
Yes.
ability to explain? Are you testing your ability to
sequencing.
learn?
Because
To
something I
yeah.
should say too is that another thing they're looking for is like, we use the Common European Framework of Reference for our languages. So we are trying to teach through like B2 level in all of our courses. And we're not there yet, but like eventually that's where we would like to be, because that level of whatever language, you can get a knowledge job. And that was the original goal, like I said, right, was to enhance like earning capacity and an opportunity by letting people learn a language.
Yeah, great. I'll let other people ask some questions.
Young Yun, you have a question?
Yeah. Is there any close relationship between your dissertation topic and your job in Duolingo?
Yeah, not really, but I worked on a project with someone. So my dissertation topic, that's a really good question. My dissertation topic was looking at sort of like the affective side of language learning. So like emotions, behaviors, attitudes and stuff. And so I did a little mini project with the DET, which is our Duolingo English test, to see, because they were kind of looking at like, obviously high stakes testing. Everyone, I think in this room took the TOEFL or the IELTS, and you know how challenging that is. The closest thing I have is like the SAT. Which wasn't as high stakes as I think any of that. So yeah, they're looking at like what could they do to like reduce learner anxiety and stuff, because they want to, market it as something that is anything that's beneficial, like it's cheaper, it's more accessible. And if we say it helps reduce learner anxiety as well, I think that makes it even more attractive, because that's a huge stress for international students. So partially, I got to work on it.
Did you emphasize your kind of emotional and social approach about the learning in your interview?
I did. I mentioned it because I guess it came up when if they would ask me questions about like my teaching philosophy. And I kind of mentioned that, a lot of times in second language learning, if we're only looking at the cognitive side, we're missing whole pieces of the learner. And so I think that is something that is important, because I think in an app, it can be easy to just focus on the cognitive side of learning. And we want to make sure that we're, even through technology, taking into consideration the, emotions, beliefs, and attitudes. If someone gives us feedback, like we do look at a lot of like user feedback, and someone says, I read this question and it really, I think maybe you were trying to be funny, but it like hurt my feelings. We'll take it out of the app sometimes, like depending on if we get, too much negative feedback on it. So, because we want to be sensitive to our learners. So I think that did matter a little bit that I mentioned that.
Another question, because many of the students in our department are international students. So do you think it is same to apply for the art industry job as a domestic student and as an international student?
Yeah, I was just talking about this with somebody recently. So I can't say that like you're guaranteed to get like a green card through Duolingo. But I do know people who have worked for the company for a long time. And I know for certain positions, they do offer green card stuff. And we have an immigration lawyer on staff who does help people with that. So that would definitely be something to ask for. And like it said in the statistics, we have people from over 25 different countries. So it is a very international place to work. And it's not like everyone that works there is American.
But I just want to say that, because I know that from experience, that even if they help you with the process of applying for a green card, it might not be so automatic, because the US has restrictions on which kind of jobs and positions will get faster processed green cards. And technology and engineering is not one of those. So.
Yeah, I do know someone who is an engineer who just got their green card, but so I mean, if you were interested, I could talk to them and see if they wanted to like share their experience. Actually, they posted on LinkedIn publicly, so you could read their LinkedIn if they're like friends with me or connection or something. But yeah, exactly, Isabel, you're right. Like, it's not guaranteed. So, yeah. And I think it even says on our website, like it's for certain positions are eligible. So, but I'm trying to think of someone in my department. I mean, I know a lot of people in my department that are not American, and I just don't typically ask about their status in basic conversation. But yeah. Any other questions?
So for example, if it is like academia, we usually have like a map of, being promoted, like, from assistant
Yeah.
professor and go to, I think associate professor and then professor. But with industry, what is the outlook for, like on a job environment that promise a promotion, for example, and what do you think the growth as a PhD going to industry? Like, do you think in order to get promoted, you need to acquire a specific set of skill different than academia?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I mentioned that there is a lot of growth potential, and I think that it's more in once you're going into industry with a PhD, they're trusting that you have like the background knowledge, and you're basically learning all of the job knowledge and the product knowledge that you need to excel within that company. So at Duolingo, at least, and that's, my only industry experience, is like I was saying, I have a mentor and I have a role manager, and we talk regularly about my career plan. We get every 6 months we have performance reviews, and that is the time when you're eligible for a promotion. And so it might just be like a raise or something, or it might be actually like a full-on promotion to the next level. And there are 2 tracks you can do within Duolingo. You can go the managerial track and be a manager, or you can go to just being an individual contributor, we call it. And that's basically someone who just continues without manager status to contribute to the company in the way that they were, but they'll just get a more senior rank. And I think that I would assume that the managers maybe make a little bit more, but everybody has that increased earning potential. And I was saying too, I'm not sure if this was before you came in, but I entered at a level 2, and I think it goes up to level like 6 or 7. So there is plenty of room to grow at Duolingo. And that's something I really like too, is that it's not like, oh, maybe in 5 years I might get a promotion. It's like, no, if you do good work for the company, like there is a promotion in sight for you. Which again, compared to academia, I feel like that's much longer in between.
Not clear framework.
Yes. Yeah.
But you can just talk about demanding though. So when we talk about, for example, stress, because, some kind of, I don't know, the misconception, but, like in the industry, maybe it's more like a product, also still product performance, and emphasize on productivity. Do you encounter any kind of stressful situation during your work there?
Yeah. So again, Duolingo, I feel like Duolingo is a really unique company, but we do try to really have a work-life balance. Like even, so the past couple weeks, I've been on either like paid time off days or working from anywhere days. So I'm traveling and like working from home, but anywhere. So my manager, when I took 2 days off last week, she said, make sure that you only do like, however many, what it would be, 30, 24. Yeah. Make sure you only do 24 hours of work. Like don't do 50 hours of work in 3 days, and I think that like a lot of the people that are going into a company like that, I see your question, Tom, and I will answer it right after this. Then I think like we or at least I put that pressure on myself, and often I have to be reeled back, and that's something I'm not used to. I'm very much used to like, you need to get this out, there's a deadline, you need to do this, like
Sounds familiar.
yeah. So so it's often like we need to be pulled back a little bit, and it's interesting because like especially in the language department or the education people, like we are very much used to academia and sort of like, I don't want to use the word traumatized, but a little bit. And then the tech people though, they're just like, oh yeah, like you get free lunch everywhere. And like you have meditation room. And like last night I missed movie night. And there was like, they had this big projector, they watched Hocus Pocus and there was like popcorn and everything. And I was like, man, I should go home early because I have movie night, but I didn't want to because I'm coming here. But like that's like a company thing. We have all kinds of stuff like that. Like there's a whole people team that just focuses on making our workplace experience enjoyable, which is very different. So how many hours do I typically work in a day? For me, that varies a lot. Some mornings I wake up and I'm like, today is not the day. And that I really like about Duolingo. It's very flexible. So honestly, sometimes I would say I always work at least 6 hours, but sometimes I work like 10 because I just like, I'm on a roll. And it's kind of similar to like when you're writing, I don't want to stop writing. So if I'm in the middle of something and it's like 5 or 6 o'clock rolls around and I've already been there since 9, I've stayed in the office from 9 to 9 one day. And it's actually really nice because it's quiet. And as long as you get your work done and you go to your meetings, that's totally fine. Like if you're working about 40 hours a week, that was something that took a little getting used to at first too, because every day I was like 9 to 5, like working, but I realized that nobody is really doing that, in industry. Like some people do, but some of the engineers, they don't come in till noon and they leave at like 10. So I kind of work more on an engineer schedule because for me, I'm not a morning person. Now I know Tom likes to wake up really early, so Tom could go in and you could work from 7 to 3 and be
Yeah.
done, you know. That's what my manager does because she has a kid. So, yeah. Other
I was
questions?
just going to ask him maybe one more from me and then I'll give some space. One of the things I like about being in the academic area is that you can direct your work based on your interest, obviously within certain limitations. How much influence over what you work on do you feel you have?
Yeah, that's a good point. So actually, again, at Duolingo, I do feel like you have some influence. Like, okay, I was not assigned to the English from Chinese, like nothing with Chinese at first, right? But I wanted to work on something. So I did like a mini project over the summer with some people. And I just kept mentioning it to my manager, like, you know, I would really like to work on like either the English for Chinese speakers course or vice versa, in some capacity. And like, is that possible? And she told me that, yeah, you know, first do this thing that you're assigned to, and then like, we'll see. And something opened up and they asked me to take over that course. So, yeah, you do have that. And you also can like bring up things. That's something else that I'm not used to yet either, is that if you feel like there's a need for something, you can make that known and your voice is heard. And I'm not saying that the company will absolutely like drop everything and do it, because it obviously depends on like needs, but they do make an effort. It's not just like you say, hey, I really want to work on this, and you're just ignored forever. You know, I've only been there since June and I've worked on a lot of cool things that I have really enjoyed and wanted to work on. Yeah. We also have a hackathon every year. I'm not sure if people are familiar with hackathon, but we do ours over 3 days where you can work with anybody you want and any team you want and on any project you want, or you could work by yourself and make something. And then we have a full day of presentations for it. So that's another time. And sometimes those projects, like the DET or English test, actually started out as a hackathon project. I know we're about at 12:30 and I have like one more slide. So does anyone else have any other questions? I might have 2 more slides, but one is my LinkedIn and my email. So it's just Adele@duolingo.com. And then like my LinkedIn is just, if you search Adele Tui, I'm probably connected already with some people in this room. But yeah, feel free to email me anytime or message me on LinkedIn or connect with me on LinkedIn. And that way, if you do have more questions, or if, you know, maybe right now you're not looking at finding a job, but you will be in the future, you can definitely connect with me, because I do have some current job openings available. I just thought that was cute, so I wanted to leave this in. Yeah, so I am gonna, like I said, share this slide deck with Mary, but please use these links because they will like flag it that I have referred you. And yeah, so you can view. Yeah, so you can look at all the jobs we have here, but three that I thought might be kind of interesting are the assessment science communications manager. Now, this is for the Duolingo English test. So it's for our high stakes test product. It's not for the product that I work on, but they're, in our office and everything. And I did a hackathon project with them. So that one I'm not exactly sure, but that might be something that's more like learning science related, like I was talking about before with Tom might like. Then a curriculum designer for Spanish literacy. So this is pretty similar to what I do, but just focused on Spanish literacy, whereas my position is for any language, like they could put me on a language that I don't speak. And then the educational content developer for English is very similar to what I do, but it's got a little bit more of like a creative writing focus because you're going to be actually making content like our stories maybe for the Spanish course or podcasts or something. So if any of those seem interesting to you, feel free to apply, or if you want to just go on the Duolingo website and see what we have available, message me so that I can give you this referral link, because we kind of have this mindset at Duolingo that like good people know good people. And so I think that, not guaranteeing anyone a job, but they'll definitely see, oh, okay, well, like someone we already know knows this person and is referring them.
Okay,
Yeah.
so for example, for some doctoral student, like early one, like in first or second year, I think,
Mhm.
they can be, engaged. Of course, they mostly engage with the doctoral program, right? But
Mhm.
if they want to have like an internship, also Duolingo have paid
Yeah.
internship.
That's a really good
summer, for
question.
example.
Yeah, we do. And actually my friend she got an offer at the end of the summer, and she's in like her, I guess she was just about finishing up her proposal. And she came and she did a learning scientist internship position. And I believe that it's paid pretty well. Like I don't know exactly, but I know that they do get paid.
Yeah.
And
It can be quite an experience in the CV to
Yes.
show that you have some already background with industry.
Yeah.
job.
Yeah, and this higher than the stipend.
Yes, higher them a stipend, and you might get a job offer at the end of the
Yeah,
summer.
yeah.
So like she did, and she's going to be coming back, and I can't wait because she was one of my closest friends. So I'm really excited that she's coming back. And
So with internship, you can also like find it on like
yes,
LinkedIn.
they are like, right now the recruiters are going through and kind of looking at universities and stuff. So be on the lookout for that. I would just kind of keep an eye on Duolingo's website. They should be posting internship things fairly soon. And if they do come to UAlbany, or I could even maybe suggest it if if there's people interested. But you asked about something else, internships and
Yeah,
Oh,
internship for.
and jobs also, like contracting positions are something that are nice to look at as well, because you could do that part-time while you're working on your PhD. I know that we have a little bit of a conflict if you are on the stipend, but if you're not, or if you want a summer job, sometimes the contractor positions are only a few months, and they are paid as well, of course. So that's another thing that would be good. And a lot of times we do hire from the contractor pool. Again, not guaranteeing anyone a job, but it is like another option. Yeah, so that's all from me. I think we are a couple minutes over, so thank you for bearing with me, but thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, everybody, to join our event, and
Oh.
we did learn a lot from
Hmm.
Adela. I want to thank Adela so much, and we will have a prize, right, just for you.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So come with us, don't go after this event. And
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, I also, sorry to keep everyone for another second, but I do see Isabel asked a question.
Oh.
What's the worker average profile, like age ranges, family situation in the industry? What challenges have you experienced personally that clash with your previous academic mentality? Oh, I could go on for a while about this, but I'll try to answer it quickly. Yeah, so I will say that overall, I think we lean a little younger because of the engineers coming right out of college, but the people in my department are I mean, I'm one of the only people that's not married with kids and stuff. And that's totally fine. I'm not upset about that. But plenty of people are in, like, I would say, well, I'm in my early 30s. So I would say plenty of people are in their 30s and 40s, married, kids, or not married with kids, or just married, whatever situation is. They're not all college kids. But I think the engineer side is, like I said, it will lean a little bit younger. I mean, our CEO is in his 40s. And a lot of our VPs are also, I would say, in their 40s, 50s range, my guess. Again, that, like, the
40s
status, I
and
don't, yeah. So it's a younger company, but we do have some people that are over 40s. And it's not like we don't hire people that are like, if you're sitting here and you're like, oh no, I'm like I don't think anyone's in their like 60s, but I think we would still hire. It's not like we don't hire people because of their age. That would be discriminatory. And yeah, family situation, like I said, lots of people have kids, and that's the great thing about Duolingo is if you don't, like, if you're single with no kids like me, you can, you know, make a lot of friends and have these clubs and stuff. And if you do have kids and stuff, there's a lot of people that are parents at Duolingo, and we have a lot of different groups. Like there's a women's group, there's an LGBTQ IA plus group, there's a Middle Eastern women's group, there is I think there's, like, you know, there's clubs for everything, you know, too, as well. So yeah. And then what challenges have you experienced personally that clashed with your previous academic mentality? Yeah, so mostly like trying to take on too much and not asking for help is my number one problem at work. Like, I will just not communicate and just try to do everything myself, and that's not a sustainable way to operate in industry. You're really encouraged at Duolingo to, like, give away your Legos, which means, like, to share things that you've worked on and created and pass it on to other people. And we also are really big on feedback, and that's something that's really helpful. Like, it's not we try to be kind to each other, hard on the work is our sort of motto. And I really try to take that to heart whenever I'm working with contractors, or when my manager is giving me feedback. I know that she's, like, doing it to make me better, and it's very different styles than in academia. And so at first I think that was just a big culture shock. Almost feeling like I don't deserve a lot of the benefits and stuff in industry. Yeah, it's like, I kind of didn't realize, like, academia, I put so much pressure on myself. So I think some of that is just a personal thing, but I think that it's pretty common to really put a lot of pressure on yourself. And now I'm like,
So when you
Yeah.
enter that situation, like, who make you realize that reaching out for help is okay, like sharing your work with your colleague is okay?
yeah, my role manager, my mentor, I met with them, like, I meet with my manager weekly, and I met with my mentor weekly until recently. I felt like, hey, I could just meet with you every other week or so. That's another good question, Isabel. How's your bright idea honored? Yeah, so we have a couple ways. So there is what we call a peer bonus, and that's exactly what it sounds like. So if I'm working with Young-Yoon and he does something really great and helps me out, I can praise him for that, and he actually gets a $250 bonus on his next paycheck. And then there's also spot bonuses, which are, if you contribute to the company in a meaningful way, then you will get compensated basically accordingly to what the business impact is on that. And that can be thousands if you have a big impact on the company. And we also just have a channel, we use Slack, and we have a channel that just is like praising each other. So we'll just sometimes say, like, hey, this person really helped me out. And maybe it's not like enough of a praise for like a spot bonus or a peer bonus, but it's just like, hey, I want to recognize this person company-wide for what they've done. We have a huge praise culture. Every time someone does anything, it's like, wow, you did such a good job. Like, thank you so much, you know, and there's all kinds of bonuses and everything. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Isabel. All right. Anything else before we conclude? Okay, cool. Thank you again, everybody.
Thank you.
Cheers, Adele.
Bye. Good to see
Thanks.
you all.
Yeah, great
Happy
to see you
holidays
again.
to you.
Yeah, enjoy the time in Albany.
I will.
Yeah. All right, see you in a bit.
Bye.